At SummerSlam, we saw one of the strangest calls in recent history in WWE. Well, apart from Roman going over Cody at WrestleMania. Jimmy turned on his twin brother Jey, and it resulted in Roman retaining the undisputed Universal Championship. Since SummerSlam, a lot of people have been asking why. There's been a lot of videos, a lot of tweets, a lot of articles posted about the motives that Jimmy had to turn on Jey. And after reading some of them, I've kind of come up with my own. And I've got 5 reasons, potentially, why Jimmy turned on his brother Jey. So let's start with probably the most obvious one, and the one that he's going to mention on SmackDown tonight, is jealousy. If you didn't know how Jey became the right hand man, I'm going to tell you now just briefly. So at WrestleMania 36, when it was during the pandemic, instead of a triple threat tag team match, which was supposed to be the New Day, Miz and Morrison and the Usos, it turned into one member from each team. It was Jimmy, Kofi and John Morrison. During that match, Jimmy got injured and it resulted in him being out for over a year. Now what WWE normally does with tag teams is when one of them's out, the other one's out too. They did that with Jey for a little bit, and if you remember that disastrous karaoke segment,
first ever SmackDown karaoke showdown,
Jey went off our screens for 4 months, leaving in May, coming back in September. In September, when it was in the Thunderdome, Roman added Jey to a fatal 4-way #1 contenders match for the Universal Championship. Now thinking that, you would think that Jey was going to be the one that was going to get pinned. But no, he went over, he won the match, and he became the newest contender to Roman. The back and forth they had was great, and it resulted in 2 championship matches, one at Night of Champions or Clash Champions, whatever they were calling it, and the other at Hell in a Cell. After the Hell in a Cell, Roman was crowned the Tribal Chief by Arthur and Seeker of the Wild Samoans. Jey was still not having it, but there was a point where he acknowledged Roman,
you're the head of the table,
and then took out Daniel Bryan.
oh my god.
Since then, Jey became the right hand man for Roman. And it did some good for Jey. He got to walk out at the main event of night 2 of WrestleMania with Roman and Paul Heyman, and also resulted in some singles success as he won the 2021 Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And with this, Jey was getting more over. He started to not fall in line as a twin. He became his own person. And a lot more people were enjoying Jey's single run and not really remembering about Jimmy. Then it came to a 3rd championship match at SummerSlam. It was obviously at Money in the Bank, which I went to see live. I got to watch Jey pin Roman, and Roman, remember, he hasn't been pinned since December 2019 when he lost to King Corbin. So with that, you can see that Jey has had 3 championship matches, but Jimmy has not had any, which results into reason number 2 is that Jimmy never received a singles championship match. So the one thing we've been seeing a lot with Roman's challenges is that he's been either calling them out, or it's just somewhere in the story that they are not properly earning a championship match, if you know what I mean. So like back in the day, like when Jey, like let's go back to how Jey got this opportunity. He won a #1 contenders match for the title. The rest of them, they haven't really been in contenders matches. Let's look at this year. Let's have a look at Sami Zayn, who was a major part of the Bloodline story. Sami turned on Roman at Royal Rumble, and it resulted in a championship match at Elimination Chamber. Even though it was in Montreal, it doesn't matter if it was in Montreal, wherever it was, Sami was going to be the next challenger because he turned on Roman. Jey turned on Roman at Bloodline Civil War, he got the pin, he got the championship match. However, with all of this, Jimmy never got his one-on-one shot for Roman's World Championship. And there was a perfect time to do it because Jimmy was the first one to turn on Roman. Jimmy turned on Roman at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia, and that's the strongest that he has looked in a long time. And you would think that with Jimmy being stronger than Roman, turning on him, making him look weak, that would give him a viable opportunity to challenge him for the undisputed. No, it would be the Universal Championship. It would give him a good time to challenge for that championship. But he didn't. And we never know why. We never knew why. But if you've got Kevin, Sami, you've got Jey, you've got all these other contenders who are taking out reigns and getting championship matches, why did Jimmy never challenge Roman for a title match? Let's go on to reason number 3, and something that a lot of people have just started to notice this week. Jimmy might want to become the new tribal chief. So I'll try and get a clip of it, but during the build up to the Usos versus Sami and KO at WrestleMania, there was a line from Jimmy that said he is the tribal chief.
Jey Uso, I am the tribal chief.
And this kind of went under the radar a little bit, but coming back to it now after everything that's happened, does Jimmy want to become the tribal chief? But along that line, it doesn't make sense, because when I went to Money in the Bank, I was at the SmackDown before the show, well, the day before the show, and they both said in a promo of the Usos that they think Solo should become the new tribal chief. Was they just playing us this whole time? Does Jimmy really want to become the tribal chief? Does Jimmy think that he has everything in his power to be the head of the family and the head of the table? Something that we've never really thought of before. Because when you think about it, Solo can turn on Roman at any time. Roman in promos has been scared of Solo. Even at SummerSlam, he was terrified of Solo at one point before he got speared through the barricade. Jey has shown that he's a threat because he's faced Roman in 2020. We've seen that Sami Zayn, before he went into the bloodline, that he's been a former NXT champion, Intercontinental champion, all that stuff. And when he came out of the bloodline, he was more popular and he became more stronger because he took Roman to his limit at Elimination Chamber. But with all of that, Jimmy has kind of not shown that. He's kind of just fallen in line and not really had the spotlight on him. The best we've seen from Jimmy was the turn at Night of Champions. But before that, nothing was shown. But at the end of the day, does Jimmy still think he can be the new tribal chief? So this one I didn't think of, but reason number 4 could be he is planning this with Paul Heyman. So let me explain. Heyman, during this whole story, has shown really, really good facial emotions, like over the top, or sometimes when it's just been super quiet and he's not saying anything, just by looking at his face, you can tell if he's happy, sad, confused, whatever. Someone pointed out that when you're about to see Jimmy super kick Jey, Heyman, he's not smiling, but the main thing, he's not shocked that Jimmy has turned on Jey. He has an angry look on his face, but it looks like a more calculated look on his face, that the plan has worked. He's got Jimmy to turn on Jey and for Roman to return. Because when you look at Roman, he looks shocked, he looks confused, he doesn't know what's gone on. But Heyman, it looks like Heyman might have planned something all along. Reason number 5, they've said it themselves, they want to feud with each other. They want to face each other one-on-one, have a good story, and potentially lead to a match at WrestleMania. However, WrestleMania is in next April. We're in August. So it's going to be a long ass build up if they're going to go one-on-one. There's a creative force, like the reports are saying that there was a creative force that wants this to happen at WrestleMania. And I think we all want it to happen at WrestleMania. But how are they going to drag this story out for this long time? How are they going to do it? I have no idea. But if we've got to this point now where it's going to be Jimmy versus Jey, they have their match at WrestleMania, what's next? Because we've seen that Jey can be a really, really good solo competitor. Potentially, well, not potentially, but he has shown that he can be a main eventer. What happens to Jimmy though? Because we've seen in the past, could Jimmy be the Marty Jannetty while Jey be's the Shawn Michaels? Because we've seen it with twins before. Nikki Bella has been a successful champion, but then Brie hasn't done much. So that's the only issue. The only way I can see this going now is that Jimmy versus Jey happens and they could potentially retire together, or they just squash the beef and then they become the Usos again. But I don't know where it goes from there. But if we have to go back and look at all 5 reasons, I'm sticking with jealousy. The reason that Jimmy turned on Jey was out of jealousy. Let's just have a look at the bloodline. Let's just have a look at it in general. Roman has been the dominant tribal chief. We've had Jey be the right hand man, had singles success, obviously been one half of the longest reigning tag team champions. We've had Solo, the enforcer. He's just been on the WWE main roster for a year now. He's been absolutely dominant. He's helped Roman return over Drew, Clash of the Castle. He was a big part in Roman returning over Cody at WrestleMania. He's seen as a legit threat to Reigns. That's why he's the enforcer. We have Heyman, who's been an unbelievable manager in this whole story. Like, he's been amazing. His promo work, his facial expressions have been really good. We've even had Sami Zayn be one of the biggest baby faces in the biggest heel faction in WWE, and he had amazing reactions everywhere he went. And then there's Jimmy. He's just been a soldier for Reigns. He's just been the other half of the Usos while Jey's having all this promo time and being a main part of the story. Jimmy has just been there. And I think that Jimmy wants his time to shine. And Jimmy wants to show the world what he can do. So that's my prediction for why Jimmy turned on Jey. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This should be going up before SmackDown, so I'm going to be watching SmackDown, and let's see if I'm right or wrong.
Is this really happening? I can't believe it's true. I'm just as surprised as you.